Well, it's very nice to be with all of you again here on Saturday morning. And it's our first session since the end of our Vasa, our 3-month retreat. So of course, quite a few people have been asking, how was the retreat? And it was great. We have tremendous gratitude for everyone who helped to support our going into a full 3 months of retreat. And it was a beautiful time for seclusion and for practice. It was really, really wonderful being at the Hermitage in the Redwoods. And it was a relatively wet winter last winter, so the creeks are flowing and still at this time of year. And it was amazing, the sounds, doing walking meditation day or night, or sitting there out, sometimes outdoors, sometimes indoors, but it was really wonderful. And then as soon as we ended the Vasa, the next day we were on a plane across the country to New Jersey to help with an ordination. And what I mean by help is that there's the ordination procedure for bhikkhus and for bhikkhunis is to have, under ordinary circumstances, at least 10 bhikkhunis there to be the certifying group, you might say. So if you're on the frontier, you can do it with 5. But in this case, there were 13 of us, and it was a really beautiful ceremony. And what was so amazing about it, this was at Empty Cloud Monastery in West Orange, New Jersey. It's a monastery where both bhikkhus and bhikkhunis live and lay people stay, and it's quite an amazing place. And there was also a bhikkhu ordination at the same time. There were 12 bhikkhus there to conduct the ordination, and it was a really, I'd say, kind of groundbreaking approach to things, because they created 2 semas. A sema is an area that is officially marked, so you know exactly where the boundaries are. And inside that designated area is where you do this official procedure called a Sangha Kama of ordination. And there 2 semas were created right next to each other, one for the bhikkhus and one for the bhikkhunis. And there was a novice monk and a novice nun getting ordained. So a bhikkhu getting ordained and a bhikkhuni getting ordained simultaneously. And the chanting that's done to with all of the standard wording for providing the ordination, for giving the ordination, it's the same wording mostly. There are a few additions on the bhikkhuni side. There are a few differences, but the chanters, there are 2 bhikkhunis and 2 bhikkhus. There's 2 that chant together. They were chanting in unison, all 4 of them, for all of the common text. And they paused if there was something that extra to be said by the bhikkhunis. The bhikkhus would pause, and it was so beautiful, incredibly beautiful day, incredibly beautiful ceremony, really emphasizing the balance in the Sangha and the balance in taking this kind of step in one's life that's regardless of gender. And in fact, they started calling that monastery an ungendered monastery, to really try to make the space for everyone the way the Buddha really intended, as he had the the foresight or the inspiration in accordance with Dhamma to really make it possible for whether a person wants to live a renunciant life or whether a person wants to live a lay life, regardless of gender, there's a place for you in the Sangha. And that's the way the Buddha set it up. So it was wonderful. And probably for us, the most wonderful part of it was spending time with all of these bhikkhunis and bhikkhus who we know. We knew every bhikkhuni. The new, the brand new bhikkhuni, we had only met once before, but we got to know her better. And we got to spend time with some bhikkhunis that we haven't had much time with in a long time. And also with the bhikkhus who were staying at the monastery. The ones who just came, 5 Thai bhikkhus came to officiate for the bhikkhu ordination. And the other, I think the other ones were mostly Sri Lankan. And the ones who were local, they just came for the ceremony and went home. But the ones who were staying at the monastery, we had a chance to spend significant time with them for those like 2.5 days that we were there. And it was so touching, beautiful, inspiring to be together and to, some of these people that I've known for many years, but have little contact with, seeing the development in their own practice, in their own character is just so inspiring and beautiful. And there was so much joy. That's what I really wanted to share with you today. That it's so important to be able to have this connection, this kind of Sangha community, not just with the monastics. There were also lay people at the monastery that we had known before and got to see again and could, answer questions or, find out how their lives are going. And also coming out of retreat, reconnecting with all of you who are here today and other members of the KBV community, and to really relish, it's not quite right, to soak up the benefits of this connection with everyone on this path with sincerity, practicing. We all have our challenges and defilements and working through them, working with them, being able to honestly investigate those ourselves and to be able to share the benefits of the practice with each other. It's really wonderful. So one thing about Empty Cloud Monastery is that they have a lot of programs. So the very next day after the ordination, actually that evening there was a program. The next day on Sunday there was a program. And usually the visiting monastics are the ones who get encouraged to teach and to share the Dhamma. And so we had what was it, a 90, no, I don't know how long the program was.
From like 1 to 4.
Oh, 3-hour program that we were asked to teach. And so there were 4 of us bhikkhunis, and we each took 45-minute slots teaching this program. And then a couple of us hung around and stayed with the one of the other bhikkhunis. So there were 2 of us on there a part of the time. And it's just like to be able listening to the Dhamma talks of our sisters, the way they answer questions, being able to kind of go back and forth and investigate together. it was really delightful. So I was thinking about, how that stands in balance with the solitude and seclusion during the retreat. So there's this beautiful relationship between those different aspects of practice. We had all this opportunity to have seclusion and practice and diving deep internally, and then from that to come together with others and have this kind of Dhamma friendship, Dhamma expression. It's a powerful combination. And you see it in the suttas too, where mendicants would have a lot of silence, and then they come together and discuss the Dhamma. It's like Anuruddha and Nandiya and Kimbala, they talk about, for almost all activities, they wouldn't even have any reason to say anything. They just help each other without words, still silent. But then every 5 days they sit together and all night they discuss the Dhamma through the night. And so in the Buddha, there was a group of monks. This shows up in the Vinaya, that they had the same kind of way of working together in silence, but they didn't have those Dhamma sharing times. In fact, they settled down for the 3-month reigns. They were silent the whole time. And when the Buddha talked with them afterwards, and he asked them, how are you doing? Are you getting enough alms food? That's usually, are you getting, you have enough requisites? And that was yes. And then he said, so how are you getting along with each other? This is the next inquiry. He said, oh, we got along fine with each other. Well, how did you do that? Well, we were silent, and we just, took care of business without having to break into speech. And we were just silent the whole time. And the Buddha said, that's wrong. You don't do that. If we're silent all the time with each other, there can be a lot of misunderstanding. The Buddha didn't go into these details, but you know how it is. If you've ever gone on retreat, you know how easy it is to project what you think someone else is thinking, what someone else's attitude might be. We create all these ideas about what's going on with someone else. But then when you get together and you talk, you get together when you share, and if there's enough safety and people can really be genuine, like we found at this weekend together in New Jersey, then you really see how people are growing and developing, how their sincerity comes to the fore. You really can be touched. There's a lot of ability to forgive. And we have to have that for ourselves too: kindness, compassion, forgiveness. But it's possible and appropriate when there's an actual sincerity there, a real dedication to the path, to the practice. So it's been a really rich time, a beautiful, precious opportunity to bring into balance formal practice, informal practice, seclusion, community. And I have so much joy, as I've said many times, watching, observing, witnessing the growth and development of individuals in this community. And also, like I said, there are lay and monastic friends that we were able to connect with, where you see this development and growth, this sincere dedication and devotion to the path, to the practice. It's so inspiring. And I wanted to find a sutta that expresses this. And it, for me, I mean, we've all, seen the qualities and the approach recommended in the Buddha's words on loving kindness, and also the blessings, the highest blessings in the Mangala Sutta, and the Buddha exchange with Ananda when Ananda says, good friendship is half of the holy life, and the Buddha's like, no, it's the whole of the holy life. All those examples are really familiar to us. But there's one little piece in a sutta in the middle length discourses that I felt like was coming a little bit closer to this, what I've been feeling in this time with these spiritual friends. It's in the shorter discourse on the lion's roar, number 11 in the Majjhima Nikaya. And the whole sutta is about the followers of the Buddha being able to express their lion's roar. And the lion's roar is an expression of achievement or gain or attainment in the holy life. And in this case, the Buddha said, if you have these 4 qualities and you know this in yourself, you can roar this lion's roar. And then he goes through this, talking about the members of other sects and that were, around at the time of the Buddha, and how they don't have these qualities in the same way. And the 4 qualities are confidence in the teacher with a capital T, so the Buddha, confidence in the Dhamma, complete observance and maturity in the sila, in the moral virtue. So really impeccable morality, following the precepts, and love and affection for those who are following the path with us, walking the path with us, whether they're lay or monastic. And I found that a really beautiful expression. And that it very much feels to me like it captures the experience of being together as a community. I like more the twofold idea lately, regardless of gender. And, to really, many of you have been expressing the value you find in coming together as community, talking about your practice and sharing in the Dhamma. And yeah, this is priceless. So with a heart full of loving kindness, compassion, appreciation, joy, that's what I'd like to offer today. Neil?
Yeah, I was really moved when you were describing the dual ordination at Empty Cloud, and it really does sound like a beautiful event. I'm wondering if you foresee a time, or even think there should be a time when there could be one ordination in one sima, regardless of gender, or do you think there's some value to the separate male-female ordinations?
So, Theravada Buddhism is the most conservative branch of Buddhism. And being nuns kind of, you might say, trained in or adhering to the forest tradition, we're the most conservative tradition of the most conservative Buddhism. I'd say. So there's this deep valuing of tradition and what the Buddha laid out. So there'd be a very slow change to, change the ordination procedure, although I think a strong step was taken that day, because one of the things that has marked a distinction between the ordination for bhikkhunis and the ordination for bhikkhus is that bhikkhunis are required, or there's some debate about this, but the ordination procedure for bhikkhunis includes being ordained by the bhikkhunis and then the bhikkhuni going over to the bhikkhus to get like the second side of the ordination. And it's kind of a stamp of approval or certification, but it's an official part of our ordination. And what they did that day was that the new bhikkhu also went over to the bhikkhuni side for what we wound up doing was a blessing of his ordination. So there was this balance. And there was, some investigation around whether that was appropriate or if it infringed upon any of the rules, and to offer a blessing for this ordination was not in any way an infringement of the rules. But there's going to be a lot of care around that. And, we are all, well, those of us who have been reflecting on this, this shift that we see in our culture away from binary designations, is that, can we have a non-gendered environment where, regardless of how one identifies, there's a place in the monastic order? So to answer your question, it's going to be slow going, I think, but there's definitely interest in moving in that direction.
Kind of like what Mayura was saying about we are just people.
Yeah. And what's important about, what are the important distinctions about people? You can just see it in the Viseta Sutta. It's about our virtue. It's about our precepts. It's about our sincerity in living according to Dhamma. And someone like Ajahn Gana, he says, just if we live from the sense of self, there's a lot of trouble. If we live from the Dhamma, that's how we can live in harmony. That's how we can love each other, really. So that's really what the Buddha was laying out. None of these other differences, anything that's related to the body, matter. Yeah. Other questions about anything, really? How you doing, Juan?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Good.
A little sore throat. So.
Hopefully it's just allergies.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's just allergies.
Do you know?
I don't
You're
know.
sick?
Yeah. I feel like it's just the temperature is dropping. Or I feel like
Temperature
something.
changes.
But yeah, it's nice to be here. I really like the view.
Yes, James.
Hi, Ayers. Thank you for the talk. Appreciate the thoughts on community. It's certainly sort of an issue with me being out in isolation in Lincolnshire of England. It's I suppose I should be grateful because I do have some groups to go to, but I certainly found early in my practice that since I'm on my own out here, when I started during COVID, when I finally went to retreats, it's sort of almost a bit disappointing then that you arrive at a retreat center and you think, finally, I'm amongst people who are like also into the sort of crazy things that I'm into, and you're immediately told to be quiet, you know what I mean? And you've got to be, not talk for the the entire time you've been there. So I sort of found that difficult sometimes, actually, really. But I mean, I understand that retreat time is retreat time, but still, since the Buddha talks about a lot about discussing between, discussing the Dhamma is mentioned a lot. You kind of feel like that should be more of a standard part of retreat if people are sort of coming together. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it seems sort of like it's sort of bolted on the end sometimes. I mean, yeah, it can be, but I'm fortunate that I've picked up a few Dhamma friends, and we're doing a sort of regular, well, a couple of regular Zoom sessions actually. I've just started on a new one that we're doing on Monday, where we just sort of someone picks a topic, does a little bit of a talk, and then we just sort of discuss randomly about it. And it's interesting because, and I wish I could get more of that because people offer different perspective on things. So we were talking about the Metta Sutta. Well, we're talking about chanting in general, and the Metta Sutta in particular, and about how differences in translations and interpretations. And there's that line in the Metta Sutta about unburdened by duties. And the way I would always thought about it really was it to do with simplifying your life. You're not sort of going out, starting lots of different projects and being really busy with things. You're simplifying. But my friend said about how it could be more to do with how you still have the duties, but you're not burdened by them. You know what I mean? It's you still go out and do the things in life, but it's not sort of dragging you down and that. And that's really stuck with me. And he's no like advanced practitioner by any means, but it's really useful seeing those different insights, and it's certainly nice to have more of that. Really, I suppose the only difficulty, is that sometimes if you go on a retreat and there is discussion, there's also a wide range of people attending, because it's not, it's particularly with you guys, you're very much, I'd imagine mostly people who turn up to your events are very much Theravada, Thai forest, yes. maybe not, but I've been on a retreat and there's people who barely meditate and who just turned up. There's people who have deep faith in the Buddha and have done for a long time and really devote their lives to it. And there's some people I've met who've been really sort of borderline, sort of, I don't know, very, very different. So I'd sometimes go to these retreats and you kind of think, well, are the people around me on the same wavelength? You know what I mean? Are they are they just like just there for a bit of meditation, a bit of calm, or do they take it a bit more seriously to the heart? And perhaps it shouldn't matter, but it'd be nice to it'd be not nice to have a place where everyone's sort of in accordance. But then I was thinking about this the other day, and I think there's so many variations in interpretations of the teachings and how to put them together and understand them and everything, that possibly even within a monastic community there might be differences of interpretation. perhaps. I mean, that there's still perhaps debate, but anyway, I think I've run out of things to say.
Thank you, James.
It'd be not, yeah, have more talk and chat with people. No, I do find though, and I said to the guys when I started this Dhamma chat session on Mondays, that sometimes I talk too much, you know, so feel free to tell me to shut up if need be, because sometimes when I get sort of inspired, I can just talk and talk and talk, and probably extolling misguided views. But then I suppose that's kind of the part of it, really. If you say the wrong thing and people disagree, then you can be put straight. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, James. A couple of things come to mind. I really am delighted when people tell me that they've found a Dhamma friend or Dhamma partner, particularly in the community, you know, because it is true that when a community forms around core understanding, it can be really helpful. And you know, I feel the way things have developed with KBV. People are really serious practitioners. I often say things like, yeah, you know, my presentations are pretty boring, so if you can handle that, you're probably really dedicated to the Dhamma, you know. It's like something like that, you know. It's like you know, I think that people are really willing to hang in there with sutta study, and it's not very entertaining, you know. And so, you know, like as people are practicing, and you know, we definitely talk about some of the aspects of the Dhamma that might be difficult to appreciate or even feel offended by if you're not kind of deep in the study of the Buddha's words or the early Buddhist texts. Like someone said to me, like, why do you talk about rebirth as though it was a reality? I said, because it is a reality. And so if you're not on board, you know, if you're not taking it that way, again, this isn't a criticism, it's a process. It's like, I mean, it's an understanding. Then maybe there's another kind of approach that's better for the person at that point in their development. So it's like here we have some shared understanding, and being open to appreciate that there are other ways of looking at things that can be helpful, but when they go against what the Buddha actually taught, we're probably going to leave it aside. And I think it's really great to connect outside of the formal teachings and have time together with other practitioners and talking about things. There are a couple of things that are happening. Maybe people kind of have their Dhamma buddy that they talk with. Doesn't have to be exclusive to one person. You know, that can be really useful. And fortunately, we have all these different communication methods that stretch all around the world. That's makes it possible. And the trips to Thailand, I think people, you know, we do that. I intend to do that every year to give that opportunity to anyone who's able to pick that up also. So yeah, and this idea, first of all, the thing you mentioned about seeing the unburdened by duties as having your duties but not being burdened by them, this was exactly what I was thinking of adding to your what you were describing, because that is a very useful way of taking it, and also very much in accordance with the way Ajahn Ganha teaches. He teaches the importance of having duties, having working with sila, samadhi, or with sati, samadhi, and panya. You know, having the practice continuing as you work. then you are unburdened. You even feel more energized when you've been working. So, yeah, I appreciate the reflections, James.
Thank you.
Ling?
Thank you, Ayya, and also thank you, James. Mentioned about this discussion. I was being in my mind when you talk about you spend time with the monastics and discuss Dhamma. I was wondering, I mean, how do you discuss Dhamma between monastics? I never really, I was always wondering, what do you talk about? Since you know quite a lot sutta about it already, do you give opinion, but you always talk about not having much opinion? And so I've been thinking about that question. So thank you, James, to put it up, giving me courage to ask this question. How do you discuss Dhamma between monastics? Thank you.
Yeah, there's kind of two levels to the answer. One of them we see in the suttas. You'll see Mahakoti, Kotita, and very venerable Sariputta come together and ask each other questions, and they discuss the Dhamma, and they're both arahants. Like this is so interesting, and you see this through the suttas. You see friendships among the bhikkhus. Unfortunately, we don't have enough really preserved about the bhikkhunis, but I'm sure there were also friendships there. Certainly, even in the Therigatha, bhikkhunis expressed their deep devotion and gratitude to some of their teachers like Patachara, so that they've been having Dhamma discussions. And a lot of times the way it's posed in the suttas is there's a series of questions and answers that they'll ask each other. And when the monastics get together, a lot of it, because we certainly might discuss something that comes out of the suttas, discuss something that is in the Vinaya, like looking at the details and looking at the translations, looking at how we interpret those things. But maybe even more so, how we see these things applied in our own practice and in the practice of the people that come to us for teachings and guidance. And how to work with different kinds of issues that arise in life. How to give that kind of guidance, and how to work with the distortions that have been introduced into the Dhamma and Vinaya over the millennia. You can see, there's no doubt that not every word, or as one of our teachers, Ajahn Punadhammo, put it, it's not like every jot and tittle in the suttas is absolutely accurate. Some of my younger monastic brothers and sisters don't even know what a jot and tittle is. It was like pretty ancient. I'm feeling pretty ancient that I know this terminology, but it's like, it's true. Like there's no way to, assume that everything in the suttas and in the Vinaya were the sacred words of the Buddha. There's been additions, there have been changes, sometimes there are interpretations. And so discussions often help to investigate that and bring things into alignment with the Dhamma. So yeah, it's rich and it's helpful, and it's very valuable to have those meetings and those discussions. And our katina this coming weekend, we're going to have all these wonderful monastics Ayya Santussikā is coming online, but all the other ones are coming in person. And maybe you've read the list: Ayya Bodhi, Samaneri Jinha, Ayya Suijana, Ayya Nyanaka. Both of them, Ayya Suijana and Ayya Nyanaka, were at the weekend in New Jersey. Got to spend time with them. Ajahn Nisabo, Bhante Jayasara. Did I miss anybody?
So you sent it online.
Yeah, I said that first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just did that.
Yeah, so, you know, it's like, and what we're gonna talk about, the theme of the day is for the benefit of many, which is a common refrain that you see in the suttas. We practice for our own benefit and for the benefit of many. Every bit of your development on the path benefits many living beings. From the start, keeping the precepts is a benefit to many living beings. And then the more that you understand the Dhamma and you live by the Dhamma, you're benefiting everybody in your sphere of influence. And that's a lot more people than you think. And every one of these people besides us, you're gonna hear this again next Saturday, I'm sorry, but every one of them is in the process of starting a new endeavor, a new monastic endeavor. You've got Ajahn Nisabo starting up the Clear Mountain Monastery. I know it feels like a huge thing already in bloom, but it's going to be blooming a lot more. It's got a lot more maturing to do. Ayya Bodhi and Samaneri Jinha starting Parayana Vihara, Ayya Nyanaka and Ayya Suijana starting Pasadi Vihara, Ayya Santussikā with the Aloka Earth Room, also pretty new. KBV is 12 years old. Suddenly we're the establishment. Go figure. But it's like all of these new efforts, and Bhante Jayasara is trying to start a new thing in Colorado. So all of these efforts are for the good of many. And it's a beautiful thing. And we can think of our practice in this way. Elizabeth, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was just thinking that aside from the learning and investigating, it's just very joyous to talk about Dhamma.
Yes.
I mean, even among lay people.
Yeah, any of us. We're living Dhamma and we can talk about it from our experience, from our learning. This is really powerful and beautiful and uplifting. It inspires the heart. This is how we can deal with the conditions of samsara going, this is how we deal with it, helping to strengthen one another.